Welcome back to another episode of Facilitation Friday. I am Kalani Das, your host and teacher here at World Drum Club, and I am tired. I'm jet lagged. I just got back from nearly 4 weeks in Asia, but it's Friday, and I want to get back in touch with you all and give you some of my thoughts based on what happened in my trip. So I was teaching, doing some workshops. The first few days in Malaysia I did a lecture at the university, and one of the days I talked about music therapy and the use of drumming in music therapy. So those of you that don't know, I am a board certified music therapist. I'm also a professional percussionist and a music educator, so I often speak to one or all of those things. And I want to talk about music therapy just for a second, because many of you may have heard the term music therapy, or maybe you haven't, and now you're hearing about it. But you may, like some people, have a certain idea about what music therapy is, and that could be wrong. It could be correct, or it could be wrong. A lot of people assume they know what music therapy is, and I want to give an example of a question that I get sometimes that when I hear this question, I wonder if the person asking it really has an idea of what music therapy is, or if they, if they're making it up. So the question I get sometimes is, what are some specific rhythms that you would use with, and then fill in a certain population? So somebody might ask me, well, what rhythms do you play for people with autism, right? Or what rhythms do you play for to cure depression? Okay, so I'm going to back up for a second, and that might seem like a reasonable question, but that question assumes that music is what we call prescriptive, right? Or that you could predict a certain outcome based on certain sounds or certain rhythms or certain musics. And that idea is really what the construct of sound healing or sound therapy is based on. Music therapy is a little bit different. So when somebody did ask me, what rhythms do you play for people with autism? I have to back up, because the question is not really a valid question in terms of music therapy. It's not how we work as music therapists. It would be kind of like asking a talk therapist, what do you say to someone who's depressed? Right? When they come see you and somebody has depression, what do you say to them? What are some things that you would say? And it's like trying to guess a future conversation that you might have with somebody. Anybody in the health professions would certainly tell you that there are maybe some tendencies, some things they would try. They could take some guesses, but really anybody who's a therapist and actually working as a therapist is going to do an assessment first, meet the person, find out what's going on, and then come up with a treatment plan or some sort of action plan based on what they learn. So there are no formulas. There are no plans as to how you're going to treat somebody or what you would do to treat somebody, especially in terms of music, because music is very personal, and it, of course, ranges from culture to culture, and it ranges across our lifespan. And a person in their 60s is going to respond to different music, most likely, than a person in their 30s or in their 20s. And I'm sure you can understand that. So as a music therapist, what I would do for people with autism is I would use my skills and training. I'd use all the knowledge that I have about people with autism, and then I would get to know the person. I'd meet them, find out what exactly the issues are, or what some of the issues are, and maybe pick one area of focus and maybe develop a longer-term goal in that particular area, whether that relates to functioning, intellectual or cognitive functioning, or it relates to social goals, or it relates to motor skills goals, skills for daily living, all these different areas. And then I would pick some objectives, and then I would form a plan around those objectives using whatever musical interventions I can come up with that would be best suited for that person. So it's really a very personal, individualized treatment that a music therapist would provide somebody. And I just, I wanted to bring that up with regard to facilitation, because really, there are no boilerplate solutions. There aren't any formulas for even facilitating anything. I mean, in this case, we're facilitating health and well-being, recovery in some cases, or rehabilitation or habilitation. But even if it's just fun, right? What do you do? How can you plan to provide fun for people? Well, of course, you can have an idea of what might work, but really you won't know until you get to meet the people, or at least find out about the people you're working with. And then you're going to be making a lot of choices in the moment, and that is really based on your training and experience. So, I always say, you can have a plan, but get ready to just ditch the plan immediately and use your skills and your expertise in the moment to inform what you do as a facilitator, or in my case, a therapist, or a teacher, a music educator. Not everyone's the same. Not all solutions that would work for one person would work for another person. So I want us to get away from this thinking that music is prescriptive and that a certain type of music will have a certain effect on a certain population. Like I said earlier, yes, there could be tendencies. Just for example, fast music, loud music tends to have a kind of exciting, it tends to be exciting. It tends to add energy. It might wake somebody up. It might give them a little bit of boost of energy. But we don't know until we try it. At the same time, slow, simple, repetitive music tends to have a more sedative effect. It might calm somebody. It might be soothing. But we don't know for sure until we try it. And when you try something as a facilitator, you get feedback. You see what's happening. You use your observational skills. And then you either continue doing what you're doing, or you change it a little bit, or you scrap it and try something else. All right. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions for me about this topic with regard to music therapy or any other kind of group music making, you'd like to leave them in the comments, please do. I'll do my best to get to you. Of course, the best way to get in touch with me if you really are interested in some mentoring or some advice is to go to patreon.com/Kalani, become a patron of the channel, and then send me a message through Patreon. So that's patreon.com/Kalani. All right? Have a great rest of your week or whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you in a future video.